Okay, I've put a PowerPoint together for you on the Athenian Empire, which I will upload next, but I just want you to bear in mind a few key things, okay? And this is probably the quickest way to do it, so listen carefully, apologise for my pronunciation, and try not to get lost. Firstly, you've got to remember that the Athenian Empire is set up from the Delian League. Okay, now the Delian League was set up to fight against Persia, so you can start any essay, as you would chronologically, by starting by saying the Delian League, voluntary organisation, everyone joined it willingly, everyone contributed, some through ships, Naxos, Lesbos, Chios, and some through money. Obviously, the more the league went on, the more people decided to contribute through money, because frankly it's a lot cheaper to give Athens some money and let them go and do the fighting and lose the soldiers and lose the ships than it is for you to do it yourselves. So that's point one. Voluntary organisation starts against Persia, great success, everyone's happy. As time goes on though, Athens has to assert itself by force more and more. Now the first example of that, which is on the PowerPoint, is Charistus in 472. This is an island that didn't join the Delian League, that Athens and the Delian League make join the Delian League because they're a bit worried about them being used as a base by Persia. Now that's fine, of course, that's Athens and the Delian League looking after the Delian League, so that's okay, theoretically, but it's the first sign of increased violence from Athens. The next one, which you will know, is of course Naxos. Naxos decides it wants to leave, and Athens says you can't, and crushes it, okay, when they try to revolt. Now again, Naxos really wasn't allowed to leave, so you can sort of possibly excuse Athens. With the benefit of hindsight though, we can see where things are going. Athens continues to assert its dominance, so Thasos looks to Sparta for help, they revolt. 2 years, Athens actually uses Delian League troops against Thasos, and again, the punishment is quite severe. Ripping down the walls, etc., etc. So growing unhappiness, growing use of force from Athens. A couple of other things to bear in mind that aren't necessarily particularly violent that Athens does in order to secure its position as head of the Delian League. So you've got the coinage decree of 450 to 446. We're not entirely sure, there is an inscription, we're not entirely sure when it was produced. That means that everyone has to use Athenian coinage, weights and measures, which of course increases Athenian power. On top of that you have the idea that everyone has to use the Athenian law courts that we'll come back to. You've then got the treasury move from Delos to Athens in 454, and the fact that Athens starts to spend that money on its own building projects and basically whatever it wants, which isn't what the league's set up for. The league's set up for protection. Of course, Athens says, well, we're protecting you, so we'll use the money for whatever we want. But again, it's increased Athenian dominance. The other one you have that's very important is the Chalcius decree, which is 447 to 446. Now, this is as a result of a rebellion and basically involves the Athenians saying things like, you'll promise to obey us, you'll do whatever we say, you'll have the same friends and allies as us. Okay, that's also on the PowerPoint, check it out. And of course, the key one is the peace with Persia, which is the peace of Callias in 449, and that means there's no Persian threat, so there's no need for a Delian League anymore. So everyone can pack up and go. Except, of course, Athens has already asserted its control, and we're no really longer in a Delian League. We're in an Athenian Empire, as the Allies are about to find out. Clericas, I forgot Clericas. Clericas start in 470, and they're not an invention of Pericles. These are the Athenian sort of garrisons that don't lose their Athenian rights, but they go and settle new land. So it solves Athens' problem with overpopulation, and also helps them control places. A couple of places that are used, Naxos in 450 is probably the most famous one. I think there's a cleric set at Samos in 440 as well, but they are used prior to that. Again, another example along with the coinage decree, Chalcius decree, the treasury move of non-direct violence used by Athens to assert control. Okay, so a couple more really important events showing increasing Athenian aggression, which is sort of the theme I would go with any essay along these lines. Obviously, you've got the revolt at Lesbos in 428, which is the Mytilene debate. This is where Cleon basically says we want to kill everyone, and some other guy says we don't want to kill everyone, and the Athenian demos is swayed from one to the other, but ends up still executing 1,000 people. Thucydides uses this to highlight the fickleness of the demos and how basically reinforce the fact they shouldn't have exiled him, as they do 4 years later. So the Lesbos is a great example. The other one that's well worth knowing is Melos in 416. Okay, I'm just going to give you a quote from Thucydides here that is really important. Thucydides says, and I quote, what it showed was, the strong do what they have to, let me start again, the strong do what they have the power to do, and the weak accept what they have to accept. And this was Thucydides saying, this is what Athenian imperialism looks like. Athens is strongest, so it does what it wants. And that's really shown in the great Athenian colonial expedition, if you could term it such, which is to Sicily, which is, of course, an absolute disaster. And from that point, Athens is on the back foot, but they are still ruthless in putting down rebellions. They changed the taxation system from tribute to a 5% tax on imports and exports to try and move the tax burden away from the oligarchs, who are likely to revolt, to the merchants, who are benefiting anyway. But really, it's too little too late. They've been shown to be ruthless, increasingly ruthless, and in the end, all of these islands can't wait to get away, and Sparta's call of freedom to the Greeks really hits home. So you've got a chronological spread, basically going from sort of more peaceful methods through to violence, but the violence is always there, the domination is always there. And was it completely a tyranny? No, obviously. We've looked at the benefits at the start. How attitudes changed, we've sort of covered that. Any essay on allies is going to follow that theme. Have a look through the PowerPoint, hopefully quite a lot of info there, and then get back to me with any questions. Enjoy.